Hi, Algebra 2. Today we're going to work on our second systems of equations method. The second method is substitution. So the first method obviously was graphing, and the second method is substitution. Just substitution by the word alone, right, means to replace. So you're going to actually do substitution or replacing twice. Okay? Let's go ahead and start filling in our blanks. So step one, you are going to solve one equation for one variable. It does not matter which variable you solve for. That is completely up to you. So you can solve for x or for y in the first equation or the second. It does not matter. Now, I would, if I were you, write a hint behind there. The hint that I would give you is pick the variable that has a coefficient of 1 or negative 1. You want to solve for the ones that have coefficients of 1 or negative 1 because that means that you get to not divide, which means you get to avoid fractions. And generally speaking, that's a good thing for students. So again, go ahead and pick the variable that has a coefficient of 1 or negative 1. That will save you some work. Number 2, here's your first substitution. You're going to substitute the equation you solved into the other equation and solve for the remaining variable. Substitute the equation you solve for into the other equation. So if you solve in step 1, equation 1, and then you plug it into equation 2. In step 1, if you solve equation 2, then you plug it into equation 1. So in step 1 and step 2, you need to be using different equations. You can't plug it into itself. That doesn't work. The other way that you know that you did step 2 correctly is if there is only one variable left over. So if you only have an x or you only have a y, then you know that you did step 2 correctly because that's an equation you're able to solve for. Okay, so step 3, it says substitute the value from step 2 into the equation from step 1 and solve for the remaining variable. Here's your second substitution. So you should get an actual answer in step 2. You should get x equals 3 or x equals 12 or y equals 8 or something like that. Now, I recommend you plug it into the equation from step 1. It's just easier because it's already solved for the variable. If you don't want to, and you want to plug it into the original, that is fine. You can plug it into either of the originals. That's fine. So that's where there is some options for you to pick. Again, you can plug it into the equation from step 1. You can plug it into the first original or the second original. It's totally up to you. You should get a solution then for your other variable. And then step 4 is you can check those. So you can take them, plug them back in, and make sure that they work. Again, one other comment about how you should give a solution, make sure you're writing it as an ordered pair. It's in the directions a couple of times, but if I don't put it in there, it's still an expectation. You should always be writing as an ordered pair. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the first example. If you look at the equations, you have a 6x, a y, a 2x, and a negative 3y. Which one is going to be the easiest to get by itself? The answer is this y. It's easiest to get this y by itself because you won't have to do division. All you're going to have to do is subtract the 6x to the other side, and you will have done that. So if you go ahead and look at what the work is that's shown there, you take this first equation, 6x plus y equals negative 5. You subtract the 6x to the other side, and this is your new equation. You're going to then take this and plug it into the second equation. And notice it says y equals negative 6x minus 5. That means, see how that says y equals? That means that that y is going to get replaced. So in your second equation, you have 2x minus 3, and then there should be a y there equals 55. Instead of y, you replace the negative 6x minus 5. Notice when you put it in there, it needs to be in parentheses for it to work. So you plug it in, distribute. So negative 3 times negative 6, negative 3 times negative 5. So 2x plus 18x plus 15 equals 55. Put your like terms together. So put your 2x and your 18x. So 20x plus 15 equals 55. Subtract your 15, which gets you 40. Divide by your 20, and you get 2. So x equals 2. You're halfway to your answer. You know one of your variables. You know what x is equal to. You need to find y. Again, you can plug it into this equation from step 1. You can plug it into the original equation, either of the original equations. That's totally up to you. I plug it into this equation because I find it easier. Y is equal to -6, and then there should be an x there, but we know that x equals 2, so you plug it in, minus 5. So -12 minus 5. -12 minus 5 is -17. So your ordered pair is x, which is 2, and y, which is -17. So 2, -17. Again, all of your answers need to be written as ordered pairs. Let's go on to the second example. Solve the system using substitution. Write your solution as an ordered pair. So our first step is to get a variable by itself. Notice it says y equals 24 minus 4x. That work is already done for you. So that first step, solve for, you don't have to do anything. It's already solved for. Y equals 24 minus 4x. You can then go into step 2, which is substitution. Again, this says y equals, so you're going to replace the y. 2x minus 3 times 24 minus 4x, make sure it's in parentheses, is equal to -2. And distribution would be your next step, so -72, positive 12x, because you're distributing a -3. Your like terms, you have a 12x and a 2x, so those go together and get you a 14x. You're going to add 72 to the other side, which gets you 70. Divide by 14, x is equal to 5. Take the 5, plug it in. 24 minus 4 times 5, so 24 minus 20, which gets you 4. Your ordered pair is 5, 4. 5, 4. Okay, go ahead and grab your whiteboards, please. We are going to work on a problem on our whiteboards on our own, so go ahead and grab your whiteboard. This is the problem that I want you to try. 5x plus 6y equals -4. 5 plus 5y equals 3. Go ahead and take a minute or so, work on your whiteboard, come up with a solution, and make sure it's written as an ordered pair. Please go ahead and pause the video right now so the students have a chance to work. Okay, so hopefully you guys have had enough time to work and get an answer. Let me go ahead and show you the solution. Answer should be -2, 1. -2, 1 should be the solution to that system. Go ahead and go back and find your notes. Let's get back there and see if we can keep going with solving systems. All right. Solve the following system using substitution. Write your answers in ordered pair. The directions have not changed. So you have -x plus y equals -3. You have -x plus y equals 2. When you look at -x plus y in both of those equations, that might already be ringing an alarm bell in your head. If not, that's okay. Go ahead and do the work. So I'm going to take the first equation and I'm going to get y by itself. So I'm going to add x to the other side. Y equals x minus 3. I'm going to substitute that into the second equation. So normally it would say -x plus y, but instead of y, there's an x minus 3 there, and then equals 2. When you have a -x plus x, that's a -1 plus 1. A -1 plus 1 ends up being a 0. So you have a -3 equals 2. You don't have any x's anymore. They just became a 0. Think back to that graphing lesson. If you had lines that didn't intersect, that means you didn't have a solution, so you would write no solution. Well, here you don't have variables anymore. You have -3 equals 2. The question you're asking yourself, is that a true statement or a false statement? Well, -3 does not equal -2, so that's a false statement. So that means that that is a no solution. Okay, so that's one of those special cases. Let's go ahead and look at number 4. Number 4, again, I will take the first equation and I will get y by itself. So all I need to do is subtract 3x to the other side. Y equals -3x minus 1. Take the negative 3x minus 1, plug it in for y. So negative 6x minus 2, normally y would be here. Instead, we're putting negative 3x minus 1, and then equals 2. You distribute. A negative times a negative is a positive 6x, and then a negative 2 times a negative 1 is a positive 2. Negative 6x plus 6x, that ends up being 0. You don't have any x's anymore, but this time, notice, you're left with 2 equals 2. That's a true statement, so you leave that saying infinitely many solutions. So false statement is no solution. True statement is infinitely many solutions. All right, go ahead and grab your whiteboards. Again, you have a you-try problem. So go ahead and see if you can solve this. If you could go ahead and pause the video and give the students a chance to work on this. I'll be right back with the answer. Okay, here's your solution. That first equation should have been very easy to solve. 3y equals 6. You should have divided by 3 and got y equals 2. Should have been very easy. Then you just take the 2, plug it in for the y, and solve. 4 equals negative 2 minus 6x. Add the 2 to the other side, which is 6. So 6 equals negative 6x. Divide by a negative 6, x is equal to a negative 1. Very simple answer. Negative 1 comma 2 is your solution. Negative 1 comma 2. Okay? All right, go ahead and find your notes. Let's keep going. Let's see. Let's go ahead and look at number 5 for me. This is kind of a trick question, so I want to look at this with you. This is why I call it a trick question. You have 8x, 2y, you have negative 3x, and 8y. None of your coefficients are 1 or negative 1. So the question is, what can you do about that? And you can see over here, or maybe you can't, but if you look at 8x, 2y, and 22, if you look at what is the easiest approach to that is taking out a GCF. We haven't actually studied GCFs this year, but I'm assuming that you have some practice with that from Algebra 2 classes. If you look at this, 8, 2, and 22 has a GCF of 2. You can take a 2 out, and that leaves you with 4x, 1y, and 11, which is perfect because now y has a coefficient of 1. You can subtract the 4x, and y equals negative 4x plus 11. Notice in here the 2 is gone. You don't have to have it. It's not going to affect your final work. You just go ahead and do the work without that GCF. It gets just dropped out of the problem. Okay? So negative 3x plus 8 times the quantity negative 4x plus 11. Distribute negative 32x, positive 88. Move the 88, put your like terms together. Divide by a negative 35, x equals 2. Okay, take the 2, plug it in. Negative 4 times 2 plus 11. So negative 8 plus 11 is a 3. So again, the answer to your question is 2, 3. Writing it as an ordered pair 2, 3. Okay. I think that's all the time I've got for you. The last one is an infinitely many solutions. You guys have seen that already, so I'm not going to take your time up with doing that example. Yeah, go ahead and get your homework assignments. You guys get ready to go and start that for the day. Good luck. I hope it goes well. Again, remember you can check Haiku for answers to the notes, and you can also check Haiku for partial answers on your homework.